Today's big question: where did the Iran-Israel war start? Before we get into it, a quick reminder to like this video and subscribe for more content. Thanks for your support. Now on to the question. The recent war between Iran and Israel is the culmination of decades of hostility between the two nations. But where exactly did it all begin? To answer this question, we must travel back in time to 1948. That est because the modern state of Israel was established in 1948, just before the birth of the modern state of Iran. And from the very beginning, there were tensions between the two states over the status of a small group of people called the Jews of Arab. This group of people lived in what is today northern Iran, near the city of Tob. At the time, they were a minority in Iran, making up only about 10% of the population. But they had been living there for centuries and were an integral part of Iranian society. In fact, many of them were actually Persian speakers and followed the customs and traditions of the Persians. But despite this, when the modern state of Israel was established in 1948, the leader of the Jews of Iraq, a man by the name of Hajj Husseini, reached out to the leaders of Iran and asked them to allow him to establish an independent Jewish state in northern Iran. The Iranian leaders rejected this proposal, and so Hussein turned to the British, who at the time were still in control of Palestine. He made a deal with the British that if they helped him establish a Jewish state in Palestine, he would help them keep control of Iraq. The British agreed, and so with their help, he began to raise an army to conquer northern Iran and establish his state. However, before he could carry out his plan, he was arrested by the British and sent to prison. Eventually, he was released and fled to Syria, where he spent the rest of his life. Meanwhile, the State of Israel was established in 1948, and the Arab world immediately went to war against them. Iran did not participate in that war, but it did fight against Israel in the Six-Day War of 1967 and the Yom Kippur War of 1973. During the 1950s and 60s, Iran experienced a period of rapid modernization under the Shah. This modernization effort included a land reform program that redistributed land to peasants in a series of public works, projects that improved infrastructure and living standards. However, these reforms were unpopular with some of the country's more conservative elements, and they began to organize opposition to the Shah. The Shah responded by cracking down on these dissidents, and this led to the Iranian Revolution of 1979. The revolution was led by a man called Rouhani, who was a cleric. Khomeini called for a return to traditional Islamic values and an end to the Shah's authoritarian rule. And in February 1979, the Shah was forced to flee the country, and Iran became an Islamic republic. So where does Israel enter into all of this? Well, during the 1970s, Israel began to have second thoughts about its relationship with the United States. The U.S. had become deeply involved in the Vietnam War, and Israeli leaders were concerned that America might not be reliable. As a result, they began to cultivate closer ties with Iran. In 1975, the two countries signed a peace treaty and began to trade and share intelligence. When the Iranian Revolution broke out in 1979, Israel was one of the few countries that did not immediately recognize the new Islamic Republic. They were concerned that the new government in Tehran would be hostile towards them. And to some extent, they were right. Relations between the two countries quickly deteriorated, and in 1980, Iran severed all diplomatic ties with Israel. However, the following year, something remarkable happened. Israel and Iran began to trade accusations that each of them was supporting the other's enemies. For example, Iran accused Israel of supporting Kurdish rebels in northern Iran, while Israel accused Iran of supporting Palestinian terrorists. Each piece of evidence was ambiguous and could be interpreted in different ways. But the important thing is that both sides believed it, and so the stage was set for the Iranian. Okay, thanks for watching.